Some moments don't come with thunderclaps or shouting matches. Sometimes they arrive as quietly as a dish towel tossed on the counter. Mine came on a Thursday afternoon around 4 o'clock with the smell of chicken pot pie still in the air. I had just come back from the grocery store, my palms aching from the weight of too many bags and not enough help. I'd barely stepped into the kitchen when Derek barked from the living room recliner. "Grab me another beer while you're up." Before we dive into family betrayal, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Hearing from people around the world makes these stories even more powerful and reminds us how connected we all are. He didn't say please. He didn't even turn his head. Just lounged there, stocking feet up on the arm of my recliner, the one Lillian surprised me with on our 25th anniversary. She joked that I needed a thinking chair somewhere I could watch football and pretend I understood the stock market. Now Derek's beer bottle was sweating on its armrest. I set the grocery bags down gently. Not because I was calm, but because I was trying not to throw something. "Excuse me," I said without looking at him. "You heard me." His voice carried the smirk I'd grown far too used to. "Corona. Not that cheap stuff you like." My eyes landed on the six-pack I'd bought just for him using what was left from this month's Social Security deposit. He'd joked once that the only thing he liked about me was my taste in beer. I'd laughed at the time. Not anymore. "Derek," I said carefully, "I just walked in. Let me put these away first." That's when he stood up slowly, deliberately, like a man asserting his place in the food chain. Derek was taller than me, broader too, but I'd survived tougher men with sharper tongues and colder eyes. "It's not a big deal, Walter," he said, his voice dipping into that condescending tone he used when he wanted to make me feel small. "You're already standing." And just like that, Amanda stepped in from the hallway, dish towel in hand, ponytail slightly frizzed, that same tired look she'd worn since her wedding day. "What's going on?" she asked, looking from me to Derek. "Your dad's making a scene over a beer," Derek said, still smirking. Amanda didn't look surprised. She just sighed and turned to me. "Dad, it's not worth the fight. Just get him the drink, okay?" That's when it broke. Not my voice, not my temper, just something quiet and deep inside me, like a line drawn in sand finally giving way to the sea. I looked at her, really looked, and saw none of Lillian in her face anymore. Just that hard, resigned edge of a woman who'd stopped questioning the temperature of the water because she'd been boiling in it too long. "All right," I said. Derek grinned. "Good man." "I'll pack," I added. His grin froze. Amanda's eyes widened. "You're not serious," she said, almost laughing. But I already had my back turned. Already walking toward the bedroom I'd slept in for 3 years, ever since I sold the cabin and moved in just until things settled. 3 years of groceries, mortgage payments, oil changes, tuition loans, car insurance. 3 years of Derek telling me what I was already standing for. My suitcase sat on the top shelf of the closet right next to the shoebox of Lillian's letters. I pulled it down with both hands. It thudded onto the bed like punctuation. From the hallway I could hear whispering, tense, hurried, no longer confident. Their panic made me move slower. I packed what I needed: socks, shaving kit, 3 button-down shirts, Lillian's old photograph in the leather frame. I left the coffee mug with my name on it. I left the slippers Amanda had given me for Christmas 2 years ago. I left the house I paid for. When I wheeled my suitcase past the kitchen, Derek was quiet. Amanda looked like she might cry, but said nothing. Neither did I. The Buick started on the first try, and as I pulled out of the driveway of 37 Renfield Road, the afternoon sun flared off the rearview mirror, catching the house in a warm, forgiving light. It looked like it always had white, trim, yellow porch swing tulips blooming along the walkway, but something inside it had shifted forever. I didn't look back, not because I was angry, but because for the first time in years I was finally looking forward. If you're still watching comment 1, so I know you're still with me, the room at Elk Bend Inn wasn't much, but it had clean sheets and a lock that turned with a solid click. Something about that felt comforting. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time that first evening, not turning on the TV, not unpacking, not even taking off my shoes, just sitting. Outside the window, dusk settled over the parking lot. Somewhere in the distance, someone was grilling steaks. A child laughed. Life as always kept moving. It took exactly 1 hour before the first phone call came. Amanda. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. Her voice trembled just a little. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. The second call came from Derek 15 minutes later. He didn't leave a message. I turned the phone face down and reached for my notebook instead. The one I kept in my desk drawer at home, no, at their home. Now it sat beside me like a war log. Page 1. Mortgage, cancel autopay. Page 2. Insurance, review policies, remove vehicles. Page 3. Credit cards, check for authorized users. I'd spent 30 years working at Elk Bend Community Bank. I knew how the system worked, how quiet and powerful a simple phone call could be when you knew who to talk to and what to say. And I was going to make those calls first thing tomorrow. That night, I didn't sleep much. Too many memories. Too much clarity. In the early morning haze, I walked down to the lobby, grabbed a cup of burnt motel coffee, and sat outside on a plastic bench that smelled faintly of pine and cigarette smoke. I sipped slowly, staring out at the sunlit road leading into town. I wasn't angry. I was done. And there's a difference. By 9 Haziruaim, I was sitting at the little table by the window laptop, open paperwork spread out like a general mapping a campaign. First call Elk Bend Community Bank. The line clicked after 2 rings. This is Jenna. How can I help you today? Hi, Jenna. I'd like to cancel an autopay connected to account ending in 7110, the mortgage for 37 Renfield Road. Pause. Yes, Mr. Hargrove. That payment's been active for quite some time. May I ask the reason the residents no longer qualify for financial assistance? Another pause, then the sound of keys tapping. Understood, sir. The autopay has been disabled. You'll receive written confirmation within 3 business days. Thank you. 1 down. Second call, Geico. My old policy had both Derek's Silverado and Amanda's little Hyundai listed, both added under my name, both fully covered. Please remove both vehicles from my policy effective immediately. The representative tried to offer alternatives. I declined. They can find their own coverage, I said simply. Third task, credit cards. Amanda had been an authorized user on 3 of my accounts, Visa, MasterCard, and the Renfield Co-op store card. I called each one by one, calmly, politely. I removed her access, asked for new cards to be issued in my name only. Any balances she created will still fall to me, I told the last agent. But no new charges. That's what matters. By noon, I'd made 7 calls and removed myself from over $2,000 a month in quiet, consistent bleeding. Money I'd spent without question for the past 5 years. Money that had been taken for granted. Now it stayed with me. The phone was oddly quiet. No more calls since early morning. No texts. They probably hadn't noticed yet. That's the funny thing about help, you never think about it until it's gone. I went for a walk through downtown Elk Bend. The bakery still smelled like cinnamon and warmth. The barber shop still had the same striped pole. The world hadn't ended because I stopped paying other people's bills. Imagine that. The first callback came that evening. Amanda again. I didn't pick up. Then Derek this time with a voicemail. Hey, look man, there's something wrong with the mortgage. Bank says the payment didn't go through. Can you check on that? Call me back. I deleted it. 2 hours later, insurance lapsed. What the hell, Walter? You can't just drop coverage without warning. Yes, I could. And I had. By Wednesday, I had 14 missed calls, 12 from Amanda, 2 from Derek, growing shorter and sharper. That afternoon, I decided to visit Calvin Mercer. Calvin had been my friend for over 2 decades, co-worker, fellow fisherman, occasional poker buddy, when we both still had the patience for cards. He now ran the senior loan division at the bank. We met at the Hearth, the cafe on Main Street, sat at our usual corner table beside the window with the peeling paint. You look lighter, Calvin said, sipping his coffee. I smiled. I feel lighter. He tilted his head. That's good because I need to tell you something. I set my cup down. Derek came in here a few weeks back, he said carefully. Tried to take out a home equity loan. On your house. My stomach dropped. He brought forged documents, Calvin continued. Claimed he owned the place. Had Amanda's name scribbled on a fake deed. But title search showed the truth, your name no co-owners. I leaned back. When mid-February, I didn't want to call you until I had confirmation it was fraud, not stupidity. And now... Oh, it was fraud. I let the silence stretch between us. How much was he asking for? 50 grand? Said it was for repairs. I laughed short and bitter. He doesn't even mow the lawn. Calvin gave a half smile. I flagged the attempt, documented everything. But technically, since no money changed hands, it's a gray area. Exactly. That evening, I returned to my motel room and opened a new file on my laptop, Derek Royce. Evidence. I attached Calvin's written statement, scanned my bank confirmations, and began outlining the sequence of events. I'd seen patterns like this before in my career. Borrowing, lying, leveraging relationships until the well ran dry. Derek wasn't new, he was just personal, and that made him dangerous. On Thursday, I walked into the Flathead County Courthouse and filed for a formal eviction. The clerk glanced at the address and raised an eyebrow. Your daughter's residence, my property, my name. They were guests. That status has ended. She nodded, stamped the papers. 30 days from today. If they contest, hearing date will be set. Otherwise, sheriff will serve notice. Perfect. I walked out into the spring sun and took my first full breath of the week. Then I made one more stop, the police department. Detective Jim Morrison, a good man, gruff but fair, welcomed me into his cramped office lined with faded posters about neighborhood safety. I told him everything. The beer, the ultimatum, the forged paperwork, the debt, the pattern. He listened, scribbled notes, nodded in the right places. I'll open a preliminary file, he said. If anything escalates, you'll already have a paper trail. I left the station with a business card in my coat pocket and a quiet confidence in my stride. This wasn't revenge, it was protection. Of what I'd built. Of who I'd become. Of the man Lillian would have been proud of. That night, I didn't turn off my phone. Let the calls come. Let the panic grow. Let the silence speak louder than any apology never offered. Because I wasn't angry, I was done. And that changes everything. If you're still watching, comment 1, so I know you're still with me. By Saturday morning, my phone had become a museum of desperation. 22 missed calls, 8 voicemails, half from Amanda, the other half from Derek, each one more frantic than the last. But the one that made me pause was the message from Calvin. Walter, you should know Derek's been making rounds through town, spreading a different version of the story. Of course he was. Men like Derek never lost silently. I could picture it already, him in the corner booth at the Rusty Tap or leaning on the counter at Miller's Hardware, painting himself as the victim of a senile old man who'd snapped one day and abandoned his family. The truth didn't suit his narrative, so he was crafting a new one. I put down my coffee, got dressed, and stepped into the fresh Elk Bend air. If Derek wanted to play this game in public, I'd respond where it mattered most, quietly, precisely with the kind of clarity he couldn't fake. The first place I stopped was the post office. It wasn't even 10 a.m., and already Mrs. Langley, Edith Langley, my neighbor of 20 years, was there by the stamp machine, sorting through her bills with her usual efficiency. "Clark," she said, eyes narrowing over her glasses. "Heard you moved out. That true, morning Edith?" "Yes, I did." A long pause. "Something about that doesn't sit right," she muttered. "You built that home. Lived there with Lillian since—" "What, 93, 92, I corrected gently. She shook her head. "Well, Derek was in here yesterday. Said you'd lost your mind. That you were having one of those, what do you call it, cognitive episodes. Claimed Amanda was trying to get you help, but you ran off in anger." I met her gaze steadily. "Did he say I canceled their mortgage too? Or their car insurance? Or removed their credit card access?" Her eyes widened slightly. "No, he left that part out. I suppose he would." She studied me for a moment longer, then nodded. "I never trusted that man. The way he looks at people like they're furniture." "Furniture doesn't ask questions," I said with a smile. Next stop, Miller's Hardware. Tom Kowalski, the owner, had known me since Amanda was in kindergarten. I'd worked part-time there after retiring from the bank, mostly just to stay busy. He looked up from his inventory list and raised an eyebrow. "Walter, good to see you on your feet. Been hearing things." "Then I should probably say a few things," I replied. 3 of the younger employees had already gathered around, pretending to stock shelves, but clearly listening. I kept it simple, direct, measured. I told them I'd moved out, that I had financially supported Amanda and Derek for 5 years, that I was no longer willing to do so under conditions of disrespect. Tom's face turned red with disbelief. "You paid for their wedding, didn't you?" Every cent, I nodded. "And the down payment on their house? And their car insurance? And part of Amanda's student loans?" "Derek always bragged about how his side of the family came through," one of the clerks muttered. "Funny thing about lies," I said. "They eventually cost more than the truth." Later that afternoon, I stopped by Grace Lutheran Church. Pastor Williams was in his office preparing Sunday's sermon. The room smelled like old paper and fresh coffee, 2 of my favorite scents. He looked up and smiled. "Walter, I was hoping I'd see you." "I figured I'd get ahead of the gossip train," I said, settling into the leather chair across from his desk. His expression grew serious. "Is it true what Derek's been saying? I told him everything. Not in anger, not in sorrow, just factually. The beer, the ultimatum, the financial abuse, the eviction notice." Pastor Williams listened carefully, fingers steepled under his chin. "Sometimes," he said at last, "the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop shielding them from consequences." I nodded. "That's what I keep telling myself." He leaned forward. "And Amanda. She still calls, cries sometimes, claims she's pregnant now, that it's all too much." Pastor Williams was silent for a long time. "You think she's telling the truth? I think she's desperate. I think she's scared. I think she's never had to face this much uncertainty in her life. And you? I'm finally okay with letting go of people who only hold on when they need something." That night back at the motel, I found a message waiting from Detective Morrison. "Just a heads up, Walter. Derek filed a complaint this morning. Claims elder abuse. Says someone at the bank is manipulating you to make irrational financial decisions. We're not pursuing it, of course, no grounds, no documentation, but I wanted you to know. He's grasping now." I leaned back in the chair, let the silence wash over me. Grasping. Yes, that was the word. A man running out of rope. The next morning, I walked into the hearth for breakfast. The air smelled of cinnamon and eggs. A handful of locals gave me polite nods. One even paid for my coffee. I sat near the window watching traffic hum down Main Street. The sun was out, but the town felt restless, like a storm had passed, but no